your mind, lost in.
Now I get to study it. Well, no, like everybody would always say you have to pick one thing. It's just about one thing, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah. Okay, yeah.
yeah. So I was like, no, I need to learn a little about everything, and so now I've created a way. It's like a chart, like the structure to learn about every single subject and how it relates to learning about myself. So now I'm doing like both together.
So you're basically killing two birds with one stone. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of doing the same thing too. Like, I do a podcast, but I'm also training as an automotive technician, working for BMW. So,
Cool.
like you said, like people are like, you got to stick with one lane. I'm like, hell nah, hell nah. Because I can already know from like somebody like yourself is when you kind of limit yourself of being able to try those different things and getting into those different parameters, you learn less about yourself. I think like you've learned a lot, especially like from podcasting and especially when it comes to like science and things like there's a much deeper underlying of thought that comes in because you can't just be like, hey, I got an idea. There's got to be a process there for that idea to develop.
Exactly. And
Oh,
it's cool
yeah.
too about polymaths is that I think that everybody is a polymath. So even like what you were talking about, like a lot of people say like the sciences versus the arts, and so like for you, like that would be a polymath, like two different things. So like for you, that would count. Like being a technician is like sciencey and like working with your hands, and then podcasting is like your voice. It's art. It's bringing new people, talking to people.
Getting
So
into
yeah,
the job, man. Yeah.
yeah.
It's, you know what it is though? It's the physical aspect of what it is to be human. We are animals, but we are curious species. This idea of, and I'm a hardcore libertarian like this. This industrial 9 to 5 bullshit has literally watered down society. Like, yeah, we've got a lot of amazing things, but like, we're not designed to work a 9 to 5 and then retire at 63. Just
Exactly.
not. Just not. It's not part of the human, and I'm not the only one that says this. Like, you ask any scientist or any person that's within these fields, and they'll tell you straight up, like, this is not the right approach for human. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it human environment or is it human enhancement? Like, for allowing our species to constantly be able to better and better communicate with ourselves.
Yeah, I would say enhancement. And that's a lot of what my work is about too. It's like, how do we self actualize? How do we
Right.
become like
Yeah.
our
Okay.
truest self? Yeah.
Yeah. And then be able to grow from there, not just through one direction, but through multiple directions, right?
Yeah. Well, because you know how like people
Okay.
say that like you only use 25% of your brain. And like I really didn't believe it. But the more that I've been looking into it, the 25% is your mind. And then the other 75% is your soul, your spirit, your body. And like your body has its own like brain. Like when your body starts to like you feel like the anxiety coming, it's like you're in like a sketchy situation, like your body's going to tell you that's not your mind. Like you have like this intuition that's like very deeply connected to your body, or like instincts, and I think that instincts are different than intuition.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. Like, instincts is not necessarily a thing that you developed over time. That is a part of your genetic makeup. It,
Yeah.
depends of where you come from. It could depend on the, I guess, centuries and culture and history that you thrive from. Because, I'm not trying to demean like any type of person, but we are animals. Like, as much as we like to put ourselves on a pedestal, but we still are made up of the same makeup as most mammals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, it's just we're
Like
more
people,
conscious and aware. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, like people are like, oh, like go spend time in nature, and I'm like, your body's part of nature, like get to know your body.
God, it's so true. Yeah. I mean, we I found this so true for myself too, right? Because I'm 26 years old and I had this wonderful person on the podcast. She wrote a book called Out of Focus. Her name's Allie. And she was talking about the mental health crisis that was going on in this country. And I'm like one of those people where like I like to hear different perspectives, but I get skeptical sometimes. I'm like, come on, like really? But then when you see the other side of it, when you start speaking down with like some medical health professionals, you start to actually see the truth. It's where we live in a society where mental health is a pill, a solution, you know, a new way of solving a problem. But it's like, hey, hang on a minute, right? You just said this. Okay, so if we are mammals and we've basically gone from hunters and gatherers and basically developed a civilization, okay, I got that. And then we go from that to where we start creating these communities and start coming together. But then you start adding things to that pile that is non human, that doesn't actually work with our genetic makeup. What do you think happens to a dog when you put them alone in a shelter?
Well, I think that like being alienated from like being ostracized or like not being seen, not being loved, not being supported, like that's where things go bad and then we get stuck in our heads. But it's interesting that you were talking about the different parts of like our genetic makeup versus what's human created as we started creating these societies. So in that chart that I was talking about earlier, the
Ooh,
outside all lined up with astrology or astrological signs,
is that
but
on
the
your website?
inside, it's in a book that's coming soon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But in on the inside, those don't correlate to anything. So it's literally the way that our mind and our spirits have come together. And so that's where we find power, awareness, energy. So like energy is like economics, like you're transferring money is the same as you transferring energy. Like energy and money is the same. And then the last one's duty. So like what I'm supposed to do versus what people tell me I'm supposed to do versus what I should do according to society. And like that's where we get all messed up in our minds. Like if we
We
could
do.
figure these things out for ourselves, like be aware of what we want, what we care about, have power within our own self. Like what you're talking about with that dog at the shelter, like they are powerless in that situation. So the only way to gain power is to be your most authentic self. And then the thing is with animals where they don't have the power to get out of that shelter, power to do anything else, um there's like the well, for me, I'm just gonna say it, like I think that like they would just like switch timelines, like they would just completely shift over to a different space where they wouldn't be in that situation anymore, because I don't think that any living being can be stuck if they don't choose to be stuck.
Yeah. And I think that's so true of where, we see this all over social media. We see those financial gurus, and I've been on one of these podcasts. Like I flew out to Austin to talk to one of them, and I think he's brilliant. But the problem is that to talk to somebody that and explain to them about financial and being able to keep yourself afloat at the same time where people can be dealing with trauma, they can be dealing with a lot of pain, they can be dealing with a lot of different things. To tell somebody that you cannot live, you cannot go out, especially when you're on a tight budget, when you cannot be around other people. And because guess what? For me, that is better than an antidepressant. What happens a lot of the times is you restrain yourself, you tighten yourself in these budgets because of whether your job position. There's a lot of factors that come in, especially people that are married and you got kids and you got to figure out how to tighten things around. But then you forget about you in the entire picture. And you become depressed and you become anxious, become miserable. And then who do you think gets affected by that? The people around you. And then they got to deal with that burden on top of that. Like I feel there has to be, like what we've been saying from the very beginning, like there has to be that balance of where just like that dog, like to the point where he wants to, he or she or whatever wants to go to the other timeline. Like this one sucks right now. Sucks.
Yeah. Well, so the cool thing about like being human is that even in those situations, a lot of people have phones, they have access to social media. So like they could start developing their own interests and following accounts that are helping them develop those interests and learn more, or go to a public library and look at the books, what interests you. And then from there you could start creating content, you could start doing like other things. Like there are so many things. Like when I first started my podcast in 2020, I didn't have anything fancy. Now I have a fancy computer. I have like other things like mics and stuff, but I just started with my phone, and I would just speak into my phone on my voice memos app and then post it up. Like, you don't need money. I think that, I mean, like, obviously we do need money, like, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like there's so many ways now to be able to get yourself out of these situations with very low money. And then a lot of it is just time. So you're absolutely right. When we do a 9 to 5, you're exhausted. You don't want to do anything after. So then all you
Oh.
have is the weekends, and even on the weekends, like, you just want to like sleep. So that's how I started that doing that. On Fridays after work, I would do that just to get like through the whole week, like kind of reflect about it. And that's like what I would talk about on the podcast. Grounded Spirits is about balancing work and life, and then how to self actualize. And it's specifically for gardeners and dreamers. So, like with gardeners, it's double entendre because it's like gardeners, like actually like out working with the plants, but it's also like smoking weed. And then
It
dreamers
is.
is like sleeping when you have a dream, but it's also like realizing your dreams. Like, we were all put here, we all have something in our hearts that we're interested in and that we want to pursue, but there's all of these what ifs and all these doubts and all of this fear that keeps us from escaping our reality.
There are, and I have a good friend of mine because there was a lot of soul searching in order for me to put myself through 12 months just for a 3 month manufacturer program with BMW. And I said to him, I said, even if you're dealing with a brand that's German and makes more higher end vehicles, I said, if somebody comes in here and has, an $80,000 SUV, and she's a mom and she's got 2 kids, am I going to sit there and be like, oh, look at this bitch? I got to work on her car, her and her stupid 80,000. Like, what kind of attitude is that, man? Like, you know what? Maybe her husband, maybe the two of them, or maybe her wife, maybe they scrounged up money, or maybe they have money to be able to afford this. Like, why should I be the one that judges them? Like, I'm here to help her out. Like, I'm here to figure out, like, okay, you got your tire pressure lights coming on, there's a problem with your wheels, I got you. Let me take care of this so you get your kids in there, you don't have to worry about the shit. That mindset is taking yourself out of, stop blaming people for your problems. Stop blaming politicians for your issues that you're dealing with. Stop blaming lawmakers and police officers and all different kind of people for all the problems that exist around you. Like, guess what? You're responsible for the problems that you make. You, not anybody else.
Exactly. And it was so cool too, because when I was going through like my whole spiritual revelation and coming up with all of these ideas, I honestly was like, okay, I'm the only one that thinks this. It's like maybe not even
Nah,
true. Then
nah, you're not.
I started reading, and people have been talking like this since the 17th century. I'm like,
Hmm.
come on, like, we have been in this same cycle for 300 years. Like, you're right, like, we have to stop blaming the outside and start looking within and know that everything is a mirror. Like, if you're like, whatever is going on your outside world, it's because there's something that's in your inside world that you're not paying attention to.
Yeah. And something that people tend to really forget is this idea of community. I could tell you for myself where I grew up in a cult community in New York, and I can see the bad side of what happens to communities when you start creating indoctrination, restrictions, rules, regulations to feed the hungry. But there is the flip side of that too. It's where you can create your own communities depending on where you live. And I love those people that like, well, where I live, it sucks. Then move. Then move. Well, I don't have money. Then figure out a way to be able to move. It's like, well, I don't really want to go out. Okay, maybe go online and see if there's maybe some local events that you can try to schedule to. I don't want to go to the
Yeah.
library. There are plenty of bookstores locally that offer like book clubs and events and things. Like, there's an excuse for every problem. But I guarantee, like, I feel most things you can find a solution. It may not be easy, but there is a solution.
Definitely. And it really is just getting out there. Like, there are so many free classes. I'm a hula dancer now, but I started hula because I
That is
went to
amazing.
it was like a senior center, and I was the only young one, but I loved it, and it was free, and I went every Wednesday, and then from there I got my skills, and now I'm like in an actual halal. But like there's so many opportunities out there. It's just a matter of getting out there and like looking it up online. Like I wonder what's around me that's free. So it could be museums, it could be classes, it could be free events. There's so much out there.
And you know, I feel as an artist, one thing that kind of gets lost behind the wallpaper, as you will, a lot, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be socially awkward. I feel a lot of things have changed since COVID. Like, I'm going to be one of those that say, like, the world has changed. It has changed. People feel less and less comfortable to go out. I mean, truth be told, like we've been saying, like, it's more expensive to go out. It's can be harder for people to socialize. Like, don't get me wrong, when, I'm like from New York, and like I've lived down here in South Florida, and like, when somebody says, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "Are you trying to rob me?" You know, it's being able to kind of get out of your comfort zone and be able to. But again, I feel like that awareness is important to understand that like we're in a time where it is hard for people. You can't like be like, "All right, let's change it." It's like, nah, we got to look at the deeper underlying of the situation and what's causing this. Like to what you're saying, it's like I don't know what the solution. I really don't. I'm just, I'm an artist trying to figure it out. I think just like you are. We both are trying to figure this out. So,
Well, actually, this is what my dissertation is on. So it's honestly
right,
my job to figure it out.
right.
So what's happening is from Rene Descartes in the 1500s, he was saying that like everything's so scary that we need to focus on reason. If there's a reason, then that's what's true. And from there on, everybody has been so focused on reason. So this is what we were talking about earlier, like with being so focused in the mind, and like now like mental health is deteriorating because of it. And the problem is that we completely shut out intuition. So when someone comes up to you, your fear response comes up because you're like, I've seen so many things on the news where if somebody comes up to talk to you, they're going to rob you, they're going to kill you, they're going to do all these different things. And we really need to tune into that intuition. Like my dog, he barks at everybody that walks by. And I'm like, Billy, you got to calm it down, dude. Like, come on. And he doesn't. He's just like, everybody's a threat.
Yeah.
No. And he's like this big husky, like German Shepherd. So
A
people get scared.
mix? You got a German and a Husky mix?
Oh no, I just meant like he's like husky, like big.
But
Like
he's a
he's
German
just German
Shepherd.
Shepherd. German Shepherd. Yeah.
Mm,
But I
little
feel like that's like
goofballs.
how we all are now after COVID with social anxiety or like social interaction. Like if someone comes up to you, like you're on alert, like you're like, what's going on? So we really need to tune back into ourselves, into our bodies, into intuition, and really like suss out like, oh, okay, is this a good person? Is this not a good person? Like, can I like accept this person into my life? Maybe we could be friends, maybe we can network, maybe we could do something else, but we don't even give ourselves that opportunity because we're so on alert.
We are. And I think we need to get the elephant out of the room, which is there's a lot of agenda pushing, and I said this earlier. I'm not look. There's a lot of great medical professionals out there that are doing a fantastic job, but to your point, like we're talking about reasoning. Okay, this almost of like fixated idea of just one way of dealing with situations. You have, unfortunately, I'm talking specifically in the medical field, a lot of those professionals are mentally depressed, anxiety ridden. They've become these social media influencers that are so far from being mentally stable, it's not even normal anymore. The fact that they're still openly, publicly able to talk, that you then have to ask yourself the question of, okay, they're supposed to represent us and be our professionals, right? Supposed to be like, the experts. But they're more fucked up than we are.
Yes. Well, because they have insane hours. Like, I'm like, they're in the healthcare profession, and they're gonna have these insane hours where they have to work like 24-hour shifts. Like, that just makes
And then
no
doing
sense to
social
me.
media. Yeah, and then doing
Yeah.
social media and TikToks and all of that. I'm like, where the hell do you have time for all of this?
Yeah, and like there's like so many patients that are coming in, like everyone's so overloaded, I've heard. And so it's just like, what is going on? Like, this is supposed to be like the epitome of health, and it's like the worst. How you said, like they're worse off than us.
But you don't see that. You know, I bring this up because I think it's important. We look at social media as it has a lot of benefits, but the ugly side of it is you don't see the real story behind these people. You don't see their real life. You just see that quick 1 minute. You know, I've had people I've had people tell me like, why on earth don't you do like I used to do podcast shorts. They're like, why don't you do podcast shorts anymore? Because I said, it doesn't show truly what this podcast is. If somebody really wants to experience your work, like your book or your podcast, go watch or listen to the freaking episode. I'm not asking you to sit for the hour and a half, but it's a way of your mind being able to understand of who these people are. Like, what are they talking about? Like, oh, okay, I never, like, trying to be able to get into the deeper underlying of that. You don't get that, I don't feel, with a minute clip or a short TikTok or a short Instagram reel or something like that. It's not how our minds work.
I agree. I think that's what I love about podcasting is that we actually get to like slow down and really be able to like get to know
Oh,
these
yeah.
people.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah.
everything else in the world is like so fast, like go faster, go faster, go faster. And like this time in my life, it has just been about resting and slowing down and seeing things for what they really are. And you can't do that if you're like constantly on to the next, to the next, to the next.
No, and I mean, you can be like, even in your case, you can be an expert in a lot of different fields. And I think this is why we've lost a lot of trust in experts over the years, especially since the pandemic, is you've lied to us. You've showed us that there are things that are completely being closed because they're open ideas of thinking. Like, for example, you say the word holistic thinking. Oh, you're one of those, you're anti-vax, you're anti-this. I'm like, what is the problem with being able to get out of your own mind and think like, maybe yoga, or like you're saying, like hula hooping, or maybe doing dancing, or, maybe going out for a stroll or walk. These are things that actually are beneficial to you as a person, you know? Like, why is this such a bad thing? I just,
Yeah.
I have such a hard time understanding that.
Yeah, it's like going back to what I was saying with Rene Descartes, that like people are just so afraid of anything other than reason, because reason's the only thing that they can like see or like touch or like understand. Whereas intuition, it is woo woo. Like you hear a voice in your head telling you to do stuff, like that sounds crazy, you know? And so it's like figuring out like what is real and what is not. But the only way to do that is by listening to yourself, because I think that other people are trying to like get other people to give them the answers, but it's like, nah, bro, you have to figure out the answer for yourself, because only it's only going
Yourself,
to apply to you.
yeah. And this ideology of where, one thing fits for them all. As somebody that works with cars, you keep that ideology, I'm telling you right now, you're going to fail very miserably in this industry. You cannot like sit in front of a BMW like, oh, this is like a Toyota. All right, when you're done destroying a $48,000 vehicle, come back to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. People are like, well, I try this holistic healing and it doesn't work. Best one, by the way, is supplements, because I started supplementing a couple of years ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I actually have an RN. I don't go to a doctor. I have an RN that I go to. She's very open. We've had her for years. And I ask her very serious questions. I have another friend of mine that's a medical professional. I do that too. I try to get the two. And then based off of that information, I kind of figure out what works best for me. Might not be beetroot extract plus 2.0, but it's not how it works for people. Every single person, you're going to figure out what works for you. And you know what? As a cannabis smoker, I've realized this too. People are like, oh, weed's bad. I'm like, and I've had times where I've been on this podcast, I'm high to the brim. And I've had guests like get off the podcast and they're like, wait, were you smoking? And I'm like, yeah. Like, were you? I'm like, yeah. every single person's different. You know, you figure out on the stuff that works for you and the stuff that doesn't work for you.
Hmm.
You can't
Exactly.
find that
Like,
out until you try it. Yeah.
yeah. And especially with cannabis, like people just like she has such a bad rap, like Mary Jane, and I think it's because people abuse it, and they do
Mm-hmm.
it to like disassociate or to numb out. But if like I've been smoking since I was 18, and every time like I go deeper and deeper into myself, like sure I've had like freaky experiences with it too, but like for the most part, like that's how I was able to create everything that I have, because she allowed me to like slow down my mind, really understand who I am, and then be able to like bring it out. And yeah, like I love it.
You know, it was crazy because I was talking with somebody the other day when I was in class, and I live in Florida, and I'm one of those people. Like, I'm very sick of this state, but when I found out that Texas is planning on banning hemp, I said to myself, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. All right. It's 2025 and we're banning a plant that is pretty much like we use like cotton. Like
And that we've
people
used for like thousands of years.
thousands of years. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, and you know what, I hate to say this, but like any place, okay, and again, I try to keep myself very like local and very social. Any place that starts throwing rules weird. Psychedelics are bad. Cannabis is bad. This is bad. That is. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I don't want any part of this. Like,
Hmm.
you know why? Because I know immediately that is closed minded thinking. And I hate, I mean that. I hate closed minded thinking because that leads to shallowness, that leads to aggressiveness, that leads to violence, and that leads to extreme corruption, which, hello,
Yep.
America, baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy with that law in Texas?
Well, Texas
I'm
has been doing
like,
some crazy stuff, so
I was thinking of moving there because I was like relocating with BMW, and I'm like, I think I'm more keen to moving to places like Colorado at this point than
hmm.
anywhere else because I just feel like, what do you what honestly like what are you supposed to do as an American? Are you supposed to spend your life being restricted? Or like we were just saying from the beginning, like we don't know how much we get after this, okay? We're alive right now. I don't know if I'm gonna be alive tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna be alive in 10 years.
Hmm. That's what we have to
What do
live
you want to
every
do?
day to the fullest. Yeah.
So do you want to live that in a place where they think a thing that like a hemp product that makes something like this should be banned? So I should walk around naked because we shouldn't use that product. Like, let's ban cotton while we're at it. Cotton's bad. You know, we had people picking them, we had slaves picking them hundreds. Let's ban to cotton. You know, while we're at it, you know, let's just keep banning shit.
Yeah.
Let's ban Coca-Cola. Let's ban water. But water's bad. It's got fluoride in there. Let's ban water.
Yeah, like I feel like if you look hard enough, there's some bad in absolutely everything, but there's also good in
Everything.
everything.
Yeah. You know, I had this I had this conversation with somebody the other day like regarding psychedelics because I'm like one of those, like I do cannabis and I love psychedelics as well. And he was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, I've done shrooms and it's like it hasn't been great." So I immediately said to him, "Well, you probably haven't done it in a great environment." And he's like,
Hmm.
"Nah, it just doesn't work for me." I said, "More than likely, you didn't do it in the right environment." And he's like, "Well, you know, like not everybody's into that." And I'm like, I understand that you're not listening to what I'm saying. Is when you don't do certain things in the right environment, you tend to not have a great experience. And it's not because like you're trying to force anything on anybody. It's because we're so used to this idea of pop a pill, you'll feel better in an hour. Right? Pop an
Yeah.
Advil. You'll be great. You feel great in 30 minutes. It's not how cannabis and psychedelics work at all.
Yeah. The way that now that you're saying it, like it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, like with the soul, mind, body, and spirit,
Yeah.
that the a pill just disconnects you from your body. It's like, oh, you feel pain, I'm gonna cut off the pain receptor so you can't feel the pain, but
Blockers.
your body's still in pain.
Hmm.
Whereas like psychedelics, like it takes you on a whole other journey. I I've done shrooms a couple of times, and every time it's like you see like new worlds and you experience new things in your body, and you feel so light and airy. And I really feel like it does like go deep into your body, but it also into your spirit, into your soul, to like awaken things that were sleeping before.
We are very much made out of chemicals. We are mostly made out of water, but people that don't understand that our minds work off of chemical interactions. We have an endocannabinoid system baked into our brains. I've seen this. It's really cool. They have scans where you could see psilocybin entering in the brain. It's in the back of the brain, one of the receptors, and you could literally see in how like it connects, and then all of a sudden it shoots straight down through the spine. You ever notice when you do shrooms like 30 or 40 minutes in, you feel like your back is kind of light? It's like almost like pillowy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because it's shooting through from there. So what you realize is that, like, again, I'm not against pharmaceutical drugs. I think there's a lot of amazing medications that can help a lot of different things. But when we're talking about alternative medicine, we have to remember something. Thousands of years ago, people used to take these things for thousands of years. People have been doing psychedelics, cannabis, plant healing, all I I mean, it goes back 30, 40, 50, even 100,000 years. I mean, there's museums that they have archaeologists have been able to even find bodies where they can break down exactly what they've even had in their own stomachs before they died because of how well preserved these bodies are.
Hmm.
So, we got to ask the question. If we are made out of water and our bodies and brains are made out of chemical structure, why are we restricting something that actually physically interacts with our brain? Because
Exactly. There's
evolved along with it. Like, what's going on over here?
yeah.
It's crazy.
I think it really does go back to like manipulation. Like if people are to like in touch with themselves, then they're not going to listen to what the authorities say. They're going to listen to what
No.
their own self say. But I think that that's like where, and that is true. But I think that when it comes to like a collective and a society, that like by you being your best self, you are helping everybody else. You are like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So like if you have your cups overflowing, then everybody else benefits from it. And it's just about like trusting each other that we can actually all help each other.
Yeah, we can 100%. And I think, you know, this is not for everybody. Not everybody should be smoking weed, and not everybody should be doing psychedelics. It's to each their own. For some people, this really works, and for other people, it doesn't. But you're right. It really does allow people such as ourselves to have almost a deeper understanding of the world around us. It doesn't make us more special than anyone. It's that we've had these experiences, and especially in your own work, you've been able to have now a deeper underlying understanding of how these things correlate, how these things work. And you're able to give that information over to people, which I think it's a rare skill. It's not easy, but I think it's very important because if we keep on allowing ourselves, like, oh, yeah, whatever they said, like, I'm going to go along with that. Good luck.
Hmm.
Wish you the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
It's just not a way. I personally, I don't feel it's a way of living. I really feel that if we continue the way that we're continuing, we are probably going to enter into a very Orwellian world, and I don't think we want that. I've read 1984, and I had nightmares for weeks. So I don't want that. I don't know about you. Want that either.
Yeah, definitely, definitely not. But I think that that's like where we do have to remain hopeful that like people will want to do this inner healing work, that people do want better for themselves, that like we're done feeling stuck, we're done settling and like wanting to move forward.
Yeah, I think also I was talking about this the other day. I was thinking, like, you take people that have passed that were quote unquote like major celebrities, people like Freddie Mercury and David Bowie and Prince, but they really weren't just celebrities. They were these really powerful people in the artist sector. They represented ways of, like for example, Prince is a great example of this, of like being a very straight feminine man and being very proud of that. You have people like David Bowie that was just, I'm going through something. Every decade he was going through something else. I love that shit because, like, you got like almost like 50 decades worth of that crap. And to me, that's something that's really powerful as to what can we learn from that and be able to build on now. We can get into that mindset of like, oh, well, they're gone. Oh, shit, we're in a new place. Like, well, there's nothing. How can we build on from that and continue from there? Like you said, we can have a better future. We just have to be able to make it.
I think it's like about believing that you can make it. So I think that anybody who wants to be famous, it's that they have to keep on believing and believing. Like I could not believe that Lady Gaga, like when she was like on her way to becoming famous, they did a Facebook group that said like Stephanie will never be famous, and there was like thousands of people that like liked that Facebook group, and I'm like I would die like if someone created that, and like if I'm trying to do this, and like so she had to like believe in herself so like full-heartedly to be able to get to where she is at now. And so like talking about these people like Freddie Mercury or Prince, like they kind of give us permission to explore our own selves, and like David Bowie, like changing ourselves every few years to
It's
really
literally
learn
every
about
few years.
ourselves.
It's literally every few years. It's crazy. And you're so right. It's getting out of your comfort zone.
Hmm.
You don't have to fit the norm. Like, I'm in a school full of guys, full of straight guys, and some of them I'm like, I like to. It's a little like little tease. I'll be like, "You are so queer," and they're like, "I'm not gay." I'm like, "You don't have to be." I'm like, I think it's amazing you get to be like feminine and like love clothes, and be able to like be a little bit more like with the a little bit more girly, all right? Like kind of be able to get out there a little bit more. I think that's a true way of like being able to own yourself. It doesn't matter who you sleep with. It doesn't matter of like your personal interests. What matters is who you represent. Be you. It's like so what?
Yeah.
Like so
And
what?
we and that the fact that we both have like everybody has both masculine and feminine energy, and so like that really blew my mind when I learned about like the actual energy, but then also like your right brain versus your left brain. Like we have these two things and you need both, because like masculine is about structure, femininity is about flow. So like you need your structure so you know where you're going, but if you don't have that flow and you try to control everything, then that's where the corruption comes in. That's like when the power like mongering or fear mongering comes in, because you're too structured. Like you need to chill out and flow, like smoke a little, you'll be okay.
No, and especially you get those gals that are in the automotive industry, and some of them are one of the like they literally are freaking badass. Like I don't want to mess with any of these women. Like they're the type that like, oh yeah, I'll change all your brakes. Like I'll take off your entire wheels by myself. I'm like, all right, I'm backing away. Like I'm gonna let you do this thing. Like I'm getting out of here. Um, and this idea of like, well, a woman's not. I've heard this before, especially from like a lot of automotive technicians. Like, well, women are not strong enough to be able to work on cars. I think in a lot of different industries, there's places for both men and women. Okay, like
Definitely.
this idea of like, oh, it has to do with the sexes. Like, no, it doesn't. Does not have to do with your biological makeup. Like, there are plenty of things that men and women both can equally do. If a woman wants to be a contractor, she can be a contractor. She wants to work on cars, she can work on cars. You know, like we said, like getting out of that box. If that's what you want to do, you're like, well, that's not what a woman should do. Like, if that's what you want to do, then do it. Like, be you. Trust me, any partner or any person run into, is gonna love you even more because of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when you're your authentic self, like the right people will come. And if they don't support you, then they're not the right people.
Why would you want to? to surround yourself by people that make you constantly feel like you can't be yourself.
Hmm.
You know how many times you run into that? Like I've seen that happen. Like, oh shoot, like they're coming. Okay, maybe I need to get changed. You know, or like, can I come in a little bit later? Oh shoot, are they gonna like leave early? I'm like, okay, why are you? If you're already thinking that way, if your mind is already going there, should you really be friends with these people? Should you really be hanging out with them?
Hmm.
Just saying. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that every like whoever you hang out with, like they end up kind of morphing into you. Like you pick up on their habits, they pick up on your habits, and so like you should only want to hang out with people who you would like who you that have something that you admire, that you and also that you see them growing. I think that if any relationship, friendship, marriage, whatever, um like if you guys aren't helping each other grow, then like why are you there?
And I think also, I was talking with, just like personally for me, I was talking with, I have a lesbian couple of mine that live in Brooklyn. They're wonderful people. And I was telling them on how when you run into, and I ran into somebody like this that was around in New York around my age in their 20s and the 80s. And I remember when I was sitting across from him, he literally had tears in his eyes. And he was telling me on how, like, honey, I remember going to funeral after funeral of people that were just like you. And now I'm in my 50s and I barely can even find people that are like you anymore. And that really hurt because, you say, wow, here you have somebody that, like, myself, like, I'm very much the type, like, I like being able to build real connections, real relationships with people, really being able to be, like, not only just a part of a community, but also, like, be able to find people that like my own interests and kind of build from there, like, minus all the hookup culture, and like one night stands and all that garbage. And to see of how much of that has been withered away, and you want to be able to have a realistic aspect on those things, but you say to yourself, like, why why are we going backwards? Why aren't we going forwards? Isn't the whole idea of the future, isn't that in the name? Future, right? It's not supposed to be past future. It's supposed to be future.
Yeah. I think that people would rather like stay in their comfort zone, and like even if it sucks, at least they know that it sucks, instead of like jumping off the deep end and being like, "Oh, like what if I drown?" or what if like there's so many what ifs when you like go into
No.
your dream world. But I think it has to be worth it, because why would you want to if your life sucks, why would you want to stay there?
100%. And I wonder, I wonder to myself sometimes where you think that you're the only person that thinks the way that you do. Does the work on your podcast, writes the same, the books that you're. But I'm sure there are people that you have met or people that you've run into that share those same interests that say, hey, oh my God, that's really cool. Like, I can't believe that this actually exists. Like, somebody's actually doing this. You know, to think that, oh, well, I'm not going to do it because somebody else is going to work on it. Why don't you do it? If you got that passion, you got that interest, you should be the one that pursues out to do that. Like, even though in his case, yeah, like most of those people died from AIDS and AIDS complications, that doesn't mean that there isn't plenty of people within the community that don't feel that way, that want to have that type of life. You just have to be able to search. It's a little harder, but you have to be able to search and find those connections and things. Because, like, this, since we've been talking from the very beginning, one way thinking doesn't lead to a very successful and happy life. It just doesn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, you
Hmm.
have to be yourself, and then when you put yourself out there, if it is like in this like taboo or like misunderstood way, then that means that's like the darkness. And if you're the light, then all of the other lights will come and find you, you have to be like that beacon.
You have to. I found also, as a Jewish person, I found for my subconscious, I like to. He's a little shit. He's a little general. He's maybe like 5'5", and I call him mein Opengruppenführer because he really is that kind of little piece of shit. And I've gotten to the point where when he starts opening up his big mouth, I'm like, shut up. Just shut up. I'm not interested right now in reliving this trauma right now. Like, go away. Um, that is something that it sounds, but it's true though. We have those voices and stuff in our head in the subconscious that throw the trauma, throw the vivid memories, throw the crap out of us constantly. Just remember, he's a little piece of shit that's like 4'5" that you can just, you know, just flick. You know, it's. Am I right though?
Absolutely. Yeah. So with that chart that I was talking about earlier, like I found
In your
that
new, in your new book, right?
yeah, it's called the Arnelian Framework.
Okay.
And so what I did is I looked at the soul, mind, body, and spirit, and I tried to separate it just to like look at what the soul is, what the spirit is. Turns out you can't. It's like everything's connected. So that's like how this like chart came about. But like to your point about that's the mind. So it's like the ego. The ego's trying to like tell you everything you did wrong so that you can get better in its mind. Like it's telling you you did this and this wrong, so next time you could do it right, but all it's really doing is just spiraling you and making you feel like shit. So by getting rid of that, you're like reprogramming yourself. And so you could look at like limiting beliefs. This is what I believe. Let me get rid of that. Like flick it the way you're saying it, flick it away. And then now you can bring in a new set of beliefs where can like take you to the next level.
And you get scared sometimes, like I do, like especially when you get in the conversation of like spirituality, because they're like people are like, "What's this heebie-jeebie?" Like this voodoo shit over here, and I'm like, no, 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 no. There's some type of spiritual aspect to consciousness that we don't understand, where there's some type of almost mechanism. I think you can explain this a lot better than I'm doing, of how our brains physically and spiritually are interacting with these waves. And, you know, it's weird. It's taken me a long time to understand this. When you get those gut feelings and you're like, I should have listened to my gut feeling. Turns out, like, majority of the time when I do listen to my gut feeling, I actually get myself out of really bad situations, you know? But you don't want to
Mhm.
listen to that. You're like, no, 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 I want to do this. Like, but your heart is telling you no. It's telling you no. And sometimes you gotta listen. You gotta listen to that feeling.
Yeah. I think that's like the number one thing is to listen. And the way that like I've seen it, like an analogy is that like the mind is who's like taking the wheel, but like he's been driving for like 100 hours where he's like dying, he's like falling asleep at the wheel, and so like the soul or the intuition or the heart is like, let me take over, like you need some sleep, and then the mind's like, no, I got this. It's like falling asleep, like you can't be driving the truck anymore. And so yeah, it's really about letting these other parts of you have a say in your decisions. And even if it goes against what other people say or like what society says or what your parents say, like you really, really have to do you. And so yeah, so like the bottom part of like so the soul, the body of the soul is the heart, the body of the mind is the head. So like your thinking, your rationality, and then the body of the spirit is intuition, and the body of the body is your instincts. So like it's all like it all makes sense, like as far as like how your own like body is related. And so when they're all in alignment, then that's how you know that it's the right decision. If one's saying no or one's like stopping, you have to like go back and understand why does this part of myself want this other side? Like, is it because it's what it actually wants, or is it because it's doing what it thinks religion's telling it or school's telling it or whatever, like you really have to like have these like conversations with your different parts of your body to like understand why are we doing the same things over and over again. Like we have to move forward.
And you're so right. And I think a lot of it comes back to survival instincts. we still very much have those things baked within our own chemical makeup. I mean, fight or flight is a very common thing, extreme violence. There are people that, for example, they go ahead and they murder somebody, and like, how could people can get to that point? There are ways of people getting to such an extreme place in their mind where they're able to do things like that and regret it tremendously afterwards. Maybe I don't know, but I feel like maybe there is a way of being able to balance out those survival instincts, like you said. When one thing is out of check, your body knows. But maybe also the deeper underlying understanding is like, maybe the reason why I feel terrified of this person is because back in the day, love this term, back in the day, we used to be like territorial towards mates. A lot of, you got people that are all tagging against this one person. You gotta like fight to the death to win the soul over. That isn't our brains.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like in the show Yellowstone where I don't know the characters' names. My husband's the one that watches it. But anyway, this guy's like killing this girl, and then he's like, I didn't even know like what I was doing. It's like if I was like watching from above, like my body killing her, and like he was like completely disassociated from it. And I really think that that's kind of how it happens. Like your soul or your spirit is obviously trapped in your body, but like can disassociate in these like times of violence where if like I would say like even like in like the Holocaust, like the German soldiers did a bunch of horrible things, but I don't even think that it was like their own selves. I think it was like their bodies following orders, like if they were ants. Like there was no
They
like soul thinking going on.
no,
It was just
they
orders.
there was orders and meth, straight up meth. Like these people don't understand. Like it's something, especially learning about that period. These people were so disconnected from their minds that no wonder they were able to do such terrible atrocities for 5 years. I ran into somebody a while ago, a tattoo artist, and we were talking about this. And she remembers she had a conversation with her grandfather, which was he was German and he was a soldier during the war. And she remembers growing up that he used to say, "I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember." And you know, we are human and we make mistakes, but the reality is that we are very easily manipulated. Like we were saying earlier, like our bodies are designed to survive off of chemicals. You put something in there that starts changing around your chemical makeup. I'm telling you right now, people are going to change. Not always for the better. Not
But
always.
recently I did this sound bath and I could literally feel like my chemicals like rearranging. Like it was like some crazy stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of like somatics, but like they put a plate of just like sand and then they put like a violin string on it and then the sand like rearranges into these like geometric figures. It's really trippy. But in this sound bath, she's just doing like the bowls and I could like my whole body like after walking out of there, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm a new person." Like I could really feel like everything shifting in me and I'm like, "Wow, like sound healing is a real thing." Like I didn't really believe it before. But I think that's how anything is. Like you don't believe it until you feel it for yourself. Once you feel it, then that's how you know that it's true. Like you could tell me all day that like sound healing is going to change my life, but unless I actually feel it, it's not going to like I'm not going to care.
No. And I mean, for me, I experienced that through mescaline, which was kind of eye opening. I can't see music the same way I used to. It's very weird when I hear music. If I can't, I it's hard to. I think you can understand this. It's just hard for me to explain this. Like when I hear a song and it's just that connection is off. Like I can't. In short, I feel music now instead of just hearing it. If I can't feel it, I have to change. I can't listen to it. And what happens a lot of the times is music could be playing, and then my brain just goes. And that person's like, "Ooh, do you like the tune?" I'm like, "What tune?" I can hear the music playing, but my brain is just cut off completely. I can't listen to it. Weird, right?
Interesting. Yeah. That's really cool though. Because and this happened to my husband like yesterday that I was like, "You're not gonna change it?" And he was like, "What? Like something's playing?" I'm like he's like, "I could hear like the song, but it didn't like it's just background noise. It doesn't matter what it is." So that's really cool. I think that that's it must be that you're like so in tune in the present moment where like nothing can like really like move you. Like you're just like here. Is that how you feel?
Yeah. And
How
it's not
cool.
just I don't think it's, you know what? It's not just psychedelics. Like there's other ways of doing this as well. But we as humans don't always see that. We're the art and the craft of making sound is a lot more profound and powerful than we think it is. Like you said, like being able to see the sounds moving in geometric patterns. Sound is physical. We just can't see it. You know, the same way that we have radio waves right now that's flying back and forth, it's happening. We just can't physically see it.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like the same way, like
it's so
walking
trippy,
out.
yeah. Yeah, like how did they even like
Ooh.
create like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? Like these are like unseen things. Like how do you like have these kind of connections? But I think that's like a good way of like relating it to like the whole like spiritual stuff when people are like, "Oh, well, it's not real because I can't see it." But you can feel the effects of it just like you can't see wind, but you can feel the effects of it.
The idea of where I'm trying to remember this, where there's like something where our brain can't tell where our eyes are or something, otherwise it would attack it and destroy them. I'm trying to remember like something with our nerves or something. Um,
Interesting.
our eyes are basically an optical illusion. Okay, that's pretty much what eyes are. All it is that you're taking in light, and then there's a processing that's going on there, so you're able to kind of get a visual of what's going on. The reason I say this is because you have a lot of people that are blind, right? And they sometimes are more visually aware than people that can see. You might ask yourself, like, how is that possible? They can't see. It's because what we can see with our naked eyes is only what we can see with our naked eyes. The reality is there's a lot more things going on than what we can physically see, like radio waves. Energy is a great example. Can you see energy? You can't
Nope.
see energy, but guess what? We're mostly made up of energy.
And you can feel it like when you hug
You
somebody and you
can.
feel like that warmness,
Yes,
like that's the energy,
that's
but you
energy.
can't see it. Mhm.
You can't see it. But does it make it not real? No. It's 100% real. It's the very, very fabric and makeup of what makes this our own reality. You know, I agree with you. I think that point of like, well, if you can't see it's not real, I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that idea of like you not being able to see something, you don't have to always be able to see something in order for it to be real.
Mhm. But I think, like, admitting that to yourself, like, then opens the door for, like, a host of, like, scary things, and I think that's where people, like, have trouble accepting that. So they'd rather just ignore everything than to deal with, like, well, if this is true, then these scary things have to be true too. But that's, like, where it really goes
Mm,
back to understanding, like, that everything's a mirror. So, like,
yeah.
if the scary thing does come up or, like, a bad thing does come up, it's because there's something inside of you that needs to come out and to be dealt with, to be understood.
Yeah. And I think that, there's reality and then there's myth, and then there's self fabrication. You know, just because we have an understanding of different dimensions, we have an understanding of where energy is infinite, it cannot be broken or destroyed or changed. It doesn't mean that the boogeyman is real, right? It doesn't mean that, the devil is the gatekeeper and the king of hell. What it means is that there is a deeper underlying as to what is consciousness, what is life. You know, look, there are plenty of religious people that want to believe in God and heaven and hell, and I I commend them. It's a great ideology way of thinking. For me personally, I don't know. I can't get myself wrapped up on that idea of like, so there's one creator that made all of this. Really? I'm like more of the idea of like where I think what made all of this is actually consciousness. And in essence, consciousness is us.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. But
Yeah.
with God, but I kind of feel like God is part of that consciousness. So, like, you could call consciousness God, the universe, the source, spirit,
Yeah.
infinite intelligence. But I would also go as far to say that every single religion, like even like Hinduism, where there's like multiple, they're all just a part of this consciousness, this greater God. And every religion has truth in it. It's just a matter of like the perspective that you see it. And even like with like the boogeyman or the devil or whoever, it's just this kind of energy that you are identifying within yourself, that you're calling it that because you don't want to deal with it. And so
You
everything just
label it.
comes back to the self. Yeah.
Yeah, you label it, and
Yeah.
it keeps you in that idea of constantly being afraid and constantly being terrified, instead
Mhm.
of understanding that this world, yes, is very complex. But I think something that we don't realize on a lot of the times is if you just go with the flow and you kind of trust the universe a little bit, you be very surprised what the universe does. Like, I've had relationships I've had for years where I'm like, you know what? Something's off. Guess what? I was right. And I'm not friends with them anymore. Or vice versa. Like, I run into this person, I'm like, but then I feel, the universe is kind of pushing me in this direction. Turns out, like, they're some of the best people that I've had in my life, period. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
One, it's maybe the idea is maybe like an entity within multitude of entities. So it's like, it's a singularity that's made up of multiple singularities. I know this sounds
Yeah.
confusing.
No, no, that's exactly what it is. So that's literally what your soul is. Your soul is a tiny little piece of that consciousness. So like every single person and animal and plant, every single thing has this part of the divine, and all together we create the actual divine, like God. So like when people pray to God, the prayer gets answered through somebody else feeling their intuition to go to this. Like there's a story that I read that this lady was praying that somebody would come to like see her, like she was like an older lady, and give her flowers, and then that somebody else like was driving down the street and they're like, oh, like I should pick up these flowers. Oh, like I should go check on my neighbor. And like the lady starts crying, like I was just praying for this and then you did this without even knowing it. And so like you could call that God, like Jesus answered my prayers, or it could just be that you were sending a signal like Wi-Fi and someone around you picked it up and now they're here. And it could be the same thing.
Yeah, I think that sometimes gets really lost as to where what I think what we human beings do a lot of the times, we mimic the things that created us. The way that we were talking about, like broadband and technology and things, like even AGI as a great example. We're literally mimicking what consciousness and this universe or universes are. We're just doing it from a
Even
human level. That's pretty much.
exactly. Even like with AI, like AI is just, I would call it like kind of like intuition, where it's just kind of connecting all the dots and serving it up to you. And yeah, so I love AI.
I think it's amazing. I think this whole fear behind it, I love sci-fi, and I love like Gene Roddenberry's ideology as to what this future can uphold. You know, his analogy, like, yeah, like back in the 60s, but the truth is he had a very smart vision as to where, yes, we are exploring space, but we do it from a very interesting perspective where there's no smartphones. Their technology that exists in their world is very much adaptive. It's intuitive. It's like, hey, computer, change mood of lighting. Hey, computer, change holodeck. Everybody is communicating. Everybody's walking around. Everybody's collaborating. Everybody's still sitting down and talking with one another. You still are very much a part of a machine like a starship, but there's still that human interaction that needs to take care of this machine. What I think people don't understand is AI will become a part of our own lives. Whereas instead of it taking over our lives, it'll be a part of our lives. So that instead of us being fed all this media garbage and agenda and all this bullshit, you're able to use something that can allow you to do multiple jobs that used to take 20 people to do. It'll allow you to be able to think up of things that are either harder for other people to think of, like even as an automotive technician, right? There are times where there's things that you can ask a million technicians, they may not be able to figure it out. AI can do that in seconds.
Yeah, I use AI like a personal assistant. Like,
Same. I use it in my Google. That's my new Google
mhm.
search.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing too, though, is that you get to see like all the possibilities, or you could ask it like show me all the different options. Like, what would the people opposing this say? So then you can get into the minds of others too, and
Yeah.
to understand like all the different perspectives. Because, like I was saying with religion, I agree with perspectives that every perspective is right. Like, if you think you're right, you're probably right. It's just that other people can be right too. Like, both can exist. You don't have to choose one or the other. Like, everybody can be right in certain situations.
Yeah. 100%. And the thing is, once you start indoctrinating and start forcing your agendas over others based on you can't. I mean, look, we live in a country of 50 states, all right? To expect Ohio to have the same stature as a state of like Montana, come on. You know, the same thing like you can't have the same things going on in California that you'd have going on in like a state like West Virginia. You know, all different types of people, all different types of communities, all different types of work ethics and attitudes and what you want to get out of life. And for some people, that may be, you know, more of a Southern hospitality life. Good for you. That doesn't work for everybody. You know, this idea of like, well, we live in a Christian country. No, we don't. You know, we live in a country that's dominant by, you know, white people. No, we don't. We live in a country that is very much a melting pot of indigenous people, Asian people, Middle Eastern, Black, Caribbean, African. So we got to take all of that into account. Like you said, you could be right. I could be right. We could all be right. But guess what? Like, you're my neighbor and I live right next to you. So don't force your shit on me and I won't force my shit on you.
Exactly. That's the key part. Like, if you do that, that's cool for you, but doesn't mean it's gonna work for me.
You do you, boo. Um,
Yeah.
I was gonna. Okay, so I know that you have. We were talking about this for the episode. You have a book that's coming out. You have a podcast. I know you've worked on other stuff as well. Do you wanna break that down? So these
Yeah.
wonderful people. Of course, I'm gonna leave links and everything in the description for anybody that's lazy that doesn't want to start typing while listening. Make it easier.
For sure. So I already talked about Grounded Spirits. So that's the podcast that I've been doing for a long time. But the new podcast is ILA Radio. I'm like 20 episodes in, and that one is looking at kind of what we've been talking about today: intuition and reason, and how people can distinguish like what they know, and how astrology plays into it, how their career path plays into it. It's like a bunch of different things, but it's a cool show. And then I have a lot of guided journals out right now where if you want to start learning about yourself, wanting to start diving in, I break it down really easily. So like even like parts that are traumatic for you that you may not want to revisit, it like breaks it down easily, or like little by little, so that it's not like just supposed to like hit you with all like your trauma.
Little
Um,
bites.
yeah, little bites. I call them rounds. So there's like these little like mini rounds so that you can go through it again. And
Round
then
two. Ding 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 ding.
yeah, exactly. and and then I also have dream journals. So if you want to get better at dreaming, those journals are pretty good to get you to this lucid state where the way that we interact with our lives in like the real world and like the waking world, we sometimes we can't say the thing that we want to say, like because like for fear of danger, like how you were talking about earlier, like with the AIDS epidemic, like they couldn't um like be their true selves because of what was going on at that time where people were
No.
getting killed for it.
Yeah.
But in your
Literally.
dreams you're not going to have that pushback. In your dreams you can do this thing. So by living it out in your dreams, then something shifts in your real world. Like I don't know like all the mechanics, like that's not like like that's like more consciousness level. But I do know that by working on your dream life, your real life gets better. So I have some books on that, and yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really great. It's a great place for people that are looking for more insight and more of a deeper understanding. Again, this idea of being able to look at alternative ways of healing is really important, and there's just so many avenues. And I think you're doing a really, really good job at that. You have a book, you have a podcast, like especially you've been doing this since 2020. I commend you, because I remember like back then, it's like shit. It's like everything was hitting the fan, and like I was also like 2021 is when I got into this. I was like, you know what, fuck this. I need to get out there, I need to speak
Yeah.
my truth, man.
Yeah, that's how it started. I just needed an outlet, and it just kind of spiraled from there.
Do you see yourself now more as a podcaster or more as a scientist? Or do you see both of those things kind of mesh together?
I say both meshed together because for the longest I was like, I
Yeah.
can't be an academic anymore because I'm too spiritual, and like they're never gonna accept the spirituality. And so, but now I'm like, even in like my PhD classes, I talk about like the stuff that I was talking about today, and like I'm like so much more comfortable with it. So I feel like it had to do like a lot of like my own rewiring and like feeling safe, and like my nervous system like resetting, so that I'm not in this like flight or flight survival mode where like if I say the wrong thing, everyone's gonna hate me and I'm not gonna have any friends, like stuff like that would go on in my head like in high school and stuff. Whereas now I'm like, if they don't like me, that's cool. Like there's other people that will, and that will resonate with my work.
Yeah. And, a great example of this recently is like with the Surgeon General, where you have somebody that also went through the medical field and decided to take a more alternative approach. And obviously there's been a lot of hate, like, oh, you didn't get the residency, yada yada, not fully licensed as a professional and all that crap. But I think that shows you something. Because if you have somebody like that in a high position like that, that just like you went through the schooling, went through the expertise, figuring out alternative ways, like especially writing is a great way of doing that, because you then allow people to have a more way of getting that information from you directly. And you don't need people to agree with you. You know the type of expertise, the type of work that you're trying to go towards. And if something doesn't line up with what you want to do, why the hell would you want to do it? Right? Like, why the hell would you want to do it? That feels just so wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. But so many people do, like they force themselves like, oh, this is what I have to do, so I'm going to do it. But it's like, no, like I'm in this like period of my life right now where I'm not forcing myself to do anything. Like if I don't want to reach out to somebody, if I don't want to talk to somebody, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to force myself. Or like if I don't want to do whatever kind of work, I'm not going to do it. I'm in this place where I'm only going to do things from that come from my heart, and the right people will find it, and I have to like truly believe that. And it's already kind of been in the process of it, that by like letting go of all of these like limiting beliefs of I can't be both, I can't love the spiritual stuff and the academic stuff, or the podcasting stuff and my artistic side. Like I'm done limiting myself. And the cool thing about it is like all humans are multidimensional. So if you don't like this part of me, there's probably another part that you will like. And same thing goes for everybody else. Like if there's a part I don't like about this person, then there's probably something about them that I will like or that I can resonate with, regardless of politics or gender or any of the other like demographic stuff. Like we're all just human at the end of the day, so we're all one and the
Un-
same at the end of the day.
100%. And you know what? To your point, like I was telling you earlier about that couple that I know of in Brooklyn. I'm a libertarian and they're liberals, and they lean more in a different direction than I do. But guess what? We're all artsy. We all grew up in a cult community. We share so much similarities, and they're some of the best people that I've talked about my gay traumas, because somebody that grew up in a community where like you don't talk about it, you don't mention it to your family members, otherwise you get cut out. It's great. Like who cares that we have different political beliefs? Like there's still wonderful people that I connect with, and it's like the same thing with you. It's like who cares if you didn't like move your profession and sitting in a stale office in a lab for 8, sometimes 9 hours a day? Like, Jesus, like at least you're doing something, like being able to podcast for freaking 5 years. 5 years, which most
It's been
people
my
don't
longest
even,
job.
yeah, which most people don't even make it a year, let alone even 10 episodes.
Yeah, like I was a teacher before, and even as a teacher, I would kind of jump from grade to grade and school to school because I just, like I said, I've always loved everything. But like Grounded Spirits has been the only thing that I've done consistently every single week for five years, except for with this whole fire stuff. That's like where I used to record out in the wilderness, and so with the LA
Shit.
fires, like that part in
Did
the
you get
wilderness like
hit?
burned down. No, it was like the where I recorded, so like not my home, like I'm fine
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank
with
God.
the house, but like being out in nature to record the episode, every
Mm.
episode, and then to have that like be taken away because now it's like boarded up, like you can't even go in there at all. Like I've tried, and so like that was really hard. So like I went on like on this hiatus. So if you go look at it now, like there aren't episodes, but I just recorded one, and so it's gonna come out on Friday, and it'll come back up after that.
Yeah, and you also have your other show, which, like you said, you started pretty recently. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so Grounded Spirits is a solo one. So it's just me talking about the different aspects of dreaming and gardening. Whereas ILA Radio, I have somebody on, and we get to talk about their astrology, their life journey, how they interact with intuition and reason, and yeah.
I love that. And being able to be in nature is just so key. Because I did live in LA for a short period. I remember like even dealing with Santa Monica traffic and just be like, you know what? I'm going to take the long way up to the valley. I'm going to go through Topanga Canyon. That was
I love
literally,
that.
I love Topanga Canyon. Just going up that mountain, just going around it's amazing. It's like that one place out of like the whole entire LA where you feel like it's the 1920s. Feels like the 1920s. There's like nobody around. And it's not about being alone. It's about like just getting out of your head, getting out of the noise, getting out of the congestion. Just I need a little I need a little TLC. I need a little time for me. Um and that honestly, like I had somebody out on that was also like affected with the fires and stuff, and it's really hard because then it kind of limits, you being able to get out of that space, go into that headspace when you need to. Yeah.
Definitely. But I feel like everything has like its silver lining. And
Yeah.
so if that hadn't happened, now I go to parks and seeing like parks and like hanging out like in the grass is like a completely different feel than like being out in the wilderness where I would see like wolves and deer and like, you know, but like being at a park, like being able to just like connect with like the trees around and like seeing like the different people coming because over there it was just me by myself in the wilderness but like
With the
now being
wolves.
like with the wolves, whereas now it's like with
Mm.
people and like interacting that way and like forming connections that way. So it's been cool to experience like a different kind of nature. So I feel like before it was like way out there and like now I'm like coming into like more society with nature and like how to bridge them. So it's always like every bad thing always leads to more good things. So I think that's something to allow yourself. But like obviously I was devastated. Obviously I cried. So like it's also about letting your feelings come out when they need to come out and not trying to
I know.
stifle them.
And you know what also is so hard is especially when I've had this too, like because I've went through like 4 different podcast hosts since I started since 2021. And it's great to be solo, but like to your point, it's sometimes great to like have where you can talk with somebody else. In your case, being able to give that expertise and hear somebody else's thought process and where their mind is going along this, you you don't realize how much control you have in your life. Whereas you are the one that's deciding your course. Even if, for example, you have a partner, at the end of the day, like you can ask somebody for help for every little thing, but are you going to ask yourself for help? when you need, when you need to make a tough decision, because nobody's really going to hold your hand. They're really not. I'm not trying to be like the negative Nancy, but it's true. You have to be able to hold your own hand so that if you do have somebody, they can respect you for that and can be there for you when the time is needed.
But I think like even in a marriage, like I've been married for 5 years, and like I could do everything for my husband, or my husband could do everything for me, but like that also like takes away like our own like humanness, like you have to
Personality,
your
yeah.
own personality, like you still need to like be your own person, and you still need to like make your own decisions and take your own actions. Like no one can force you to get out of bed, even if they love you, even if they could bring you food, like you could, but if you're gonna be in bed all day, like eventually like you're gonna have to get up.
Otherwise, the day is going to end, and then you're just, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. I have to say, though, like, we've covered a lot of different things, but one thing I really appreciate is you, like, honestly breaking down everything so we can get, like, more of a deeper underlying understanding of, like, not only what consciousness is, not only what mental health is, but really having a realistic ideology of it. Like, not trying to be like, oh, it's apocalypse now. We're doomed. I think we have a lot more hope than we give ourselves. I
Yeah.
really do. And I think you really pointed that out really genuinely and honestly.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I hope to do. Like that's like my dream, like moving forward. I really want to create stories, whether they're real or fiction. Like I want like every single thing and body to have a voice and to share their story. So like anything. So like with I'm working on, it's called Bella Spree Productions, and so Bella is this little caterpillar that then when like she would tell everybody that she's gonna be a butterfly one day, and everyone's like, no, like why would you think you're gonna be a butterfly? You're like a little worm. And then she ends up doing it, and then when she comes out, she's Bella Spree. And I really want to create like more stories like that and like now I want to do like a little series. These are all just ideas, but like a little series where she like goes to like a rose who is ashamed of her thorns because no one wants to hang out with her because she has these thorns even though she's so beautiful, and I just want her to like go around and just like drop hope to everybody. So like that's what I've been working on right now, to start that up and do like this like little mini series on like Instagram or like maybe like little YouTubes, I don't really know, but just to like share more hope and more inspiration for people to see that like you're not alone and you're not in the dark. I mean, you are in the dark probably, but you're not alone and you can get out of that darkness. Because yeah, like I have been through a lot of dark periods in my life, and even in the darkest points where you kind of think like what's the point, like might as well just end it, like there's always something right around the corner that you would miss if you did. So that's like what I really want.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I think it touches into where you're not living for anyone else. I'll be honest with you, like even touching on that topic, there are, especially where I come from, people that have left the community. There's a lot of suicide. There's a lot. And, life is not easy, but when you make things bigger than they need to be, and just focus on one thing at a time, whether that mean getting comfortable and going out on dates with people, or maybe if you're something artistic and trying to explore that, maybe try to find somewhere locally where they have artist groups, where they're doing their painting, or those nights where you can go out for like Tuesdays and you get like a glass of wine and you start to paint. Those are the things that keep us alive, and that's the reason why you should stay alive. It's for you. It's not for anybody else.
And to find what brings you joy. I think that's the point of life, is like what brings me joy and how can I do more of that?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Oh my God. Well, listen, Laura, it has been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, I'm going to make sure to put your links. I know for your podcast, there's a Spotify link. I'm going to put that also down below so people can find ILA Radio. And again, thank you so much for this. Like, you've made my Saturday. I hope I made yours too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Great way to start it.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, to listen to anybody out there, if you want to check out more of the pod, you can find us at Lost in the Groove, everywhere and anywhere. And we're on Rumble, and we are now on Substack. So check that out. It's going to be available. So, catch you on the next one. Peace out.